Dear audience, thank you very much for watching this special live streaming. We are live for you from Shanghai. Well, for the past month, Shanghai has reported the COVID infections of more than 200,000 cases, the worst hit yet due to the Omicron variant. And in the end of last month, the city started to put close off management into the city's Pudong area, the eastern part of the Huangpu River, and then followed by the west part of the Huangpu River. Currently, all residents are not allowed to go out their communities unless there are medical emergencies. So as you can probably tell, I'm now live from my apartment, and today I have two guests who are currently very busy working at the city's temporary hospitals. One is Liu Shunfang, head of W2 section at Shanghai New International Export Center Temporary Hospital, and the other guest is Lu Xiang, Deputy Chief of Jiangsu Medical Team, who was also at the front line during the COVID outbreak in Wuhan in early 2020. Of course, if you have any comments, questions, you can leave them on our social media accounts. Thank you very much for joining us. So 罗老师和刘老师非常高兴你们能今天加入我们的这个直播。然后我们想问的这个第一个问题是，请你们仔细但是又简单的能够介绍一下。
First of all, I have a question for you too. Could you please very briefly tell us about the situation of patients in your makeshift hospitals? How many are they, and do you have enough number of the medics? First of all, to you, Mr. Lu, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm from the Jiangsu medical team. My name is Lu Xiang. I'm now receiving this interview from the Lingang bonded area. I'm just by the Eastern China Sea. I'm working at this bonded area, and according to the requirements of the top authorities of China, starting by the end of March, we have joined the design and construction of this makeshift hospital located inside the Lingang bonded area, with a total capacity of more than 13,000 beds. On the 29th of March, we have organized our team, and the day after, I have taken the lead to guide the whole team to this area of the Lingang. On the first day of April, I have taken the lead to take the team of more than 1,026 team members to this makeshift hospital. Later, from Wuxi, Suzhou and Zhenjiang, three cities, there is another batch of team members coming to this area. Currently, these two batches of medics have arrived at this bonded area makeshift hospital. In total, we are in a number of 2,055. Together with the other leaders of our team leaders, we are working with the Huashan Hospital medics because we are from the Jiangsu medical team, and we are collaborating with the medical team from the Huashan Hospital from Shanghai. Huashan Hospital is very famous for the treatment and diagnosis of the infectious diseases. They have also designated a batch of medics to work with our side. Altogether, we are working at the spot of the makeshift hospital. And apart from the above-mentioned 2,055 members, there's another extra add-up team member of 1,050 team members. Altogether, we have around 3,080 medics people working for this makeshift hospital with a capacity of more than 13,000 hospital beds. We have used two very large storage spaces. Out of the 9 total storage spaces, we have transformed 2 of them into this makeshift hospital with a capacity of 13,000 hospital beds. I have a graph with me. For the number 6, there are 2 layers. For each layer, 3 sections. And inside each section, we have further divided them into different units, with each 200 to 300 hospital beds. For the Jiangsu medical team and the Huashan medical team, we have taken in charge more than 7,000 hospital beds. There's another makeshift hospital coming from the number 7 storage area. They are also dividing the area into several units. We have this extra team from the Jiangsu province. They are taking in charge of this part, and there's also medics coming from the Zhejiang province. So altogether, we are serving together these 13,000 hospital beds taken in charge by Jiangsu medical team, Zhejiang medical team, as well as the medical team from the Huashan Hospital. And every day we also organize a coordination conference participated by 4 different parties' representatives. And starting by the 4th of April, we made the makeshift hospital open to the patients because on that specific day in Shanghai, we launched a mass testing across the city. That's why there's a significant increase of the confirmed cases. That's why we made it open on that day. And it's like we were working on the front line of the battle, and every day we work very hard, and within 48 hours, nearly all the 13,000 hospital beds were occupied. And this is a critical battle against the COVID-19 for the medical persons from Jiangsu province. We have more than 360 doctors and also thousands of nurses. We also have specialists to fight against the nosocomial infections. We have the doctors for the Department of Infectious Diseases, doctors to take care of the children, pregnant women, and also we have the surgeons as well as the other specialists. You know that inside the makeshift hospitals, the majority of the people recruited in, taken in, they are mostly the asymptomatic cases or the mild confirmed cases. At community level, we don't have the doctors, so we have to rely on the community workers to find out and discover those suspicious cases. And later on, it's our job and duty to make the diagnosis to see whether they are qualified for the entrance into the makeshift hospital, to see whether they apply to this age group, whether this patient or this person in question has too young age, above 7 years old or under. And we also have to shoulder other responsibilities. So we will do our best to take care of all the patients in our hospital. What about you, Mr. Liu Shunfang? Could you please share with us information in the makeshift hospital from the Shanghai New International Export Center? I know that the size may not be that huge as the makeshift hospital in Lingang. So what about the information in your side? In our side of makeshift hospital, we have 10 different sections. We have 14,000 hospital beds here. And for our side, we take charge of the W1 to W3 sections. I'm now working with the W2 section with a capacity of 1,300 hospital beds. In our area, we have the similar distribution of the patients inside different units. We are using the number A, B, C, and D for each sections. We are also doing the further distribution and division. For example, C1 to C4, and inside every area around the 4 corners, we also have the stations for the nurses. So that is the division of the hospital from the interior. We have received order on the 2nd day of April, very early. In the morning of the 3rd of April, we have get united, and later on we reached the airport of Hongqiao in Shanghai. On the 9th of April, we have participated in that mass testing in the Shanghai municipality, and later on we have worked together with Renji Hospital of Shanghai, and we have realized the handing over. Currently, we are taking in charge of the operation, maintenance, and also the taking over of the hospital. For the Hubei Wuhan medical team to assist Shanghai, we have medics, nurses to a number of 343. We have 7 psychologists and also 2 specialists for the traditional Chinese medicine. We have 275 nurses, and also we have the specialists to fight against the nosocomial infections. We have also trained 46 other medics to join the battle against the nosocomial infections. They are on the patrolling duty on a regular basis. This time we noticed that this round of COVID-19 transmission in Shanghai locally, we have discovered already hundreds of thousands of cases. The majority of them are asymptomatic cases. So, Mr. Lu, do they really have no symptoms? You know that the variant of Omicron is quite different from the original strain of the virus. And today, it's more attacking the upper respiratory tract. According to my lately observation among the patients in our makeshift hospital, actually the so-called asymptomatic cases, they still have certain kinds of symptoms. For example, for 7,000 patients under our charge for the Jiangsu medical team, after our arrival, we noticed that they have problems with the upper respiratory tract. We have transferred several of them to the Huashan North Hospital, more than 20 of these kind of cases, because they have developed a certain kind of symptoms. And we believe that they at least reached that type of general confirmed cases. More than 20 cases have been shifted away from our makeshift hospital to the designated hospital because they need the support of oxygen. And some other cases, they have the combination of pre-existing conditions like their hypertension, the diabetes, the stroke, and the paralysis, etc. And some other people, they even have a need for the dialysis, as well as the other patients suffering from the other types of usual chronic diseases. So at the same time, they need the treatment for COVID and also the treatment for their existing conditions. If they are now under the attack of the COVID-19 virus against their upper respiratory tract while they are suffering from the diabetes and the others, then in this case, they will have a higher risk. So we have to really treat these patients and persons in question very seriously because they have the pre-existing conditions. And there's the third scenario. People, when they come to the makeshift hospital, they have other newly developed diseases, for example, some other medical emergencies. So we can expect to see other complexions. For example, some of the newly arrivals, they have developed the appendicitis, or some pregnant women, they have some emergencies. In that case, we also have to transfer them to the designated hospitals. And they should not be designated hospitals only for the COVID-19 treatment, but they should be the general hospitals that are able to handle the other cases, for example, the birth of the new child and also treatment of the other emergencies like the appendicitis. We have this huge space to accommodate more than 13,000 persons. They may suffer mental pressures, and when there's the sudden stop of the heart, some cardio emergencies, this is a huge challenge to our side. We have this responsibility system by the head of each section. We also have the patrolling team composed by our medics. They are observing our patients to see the development of the COVID-19 virus, but also the development of their pre-existing conditions. We have this patrolling team working on a 24-hour basis to see if there is an emergency, then we can take prompt measures in correspondence. So our goal is very clear. First of all, is to put those persons in questions to quarantine so there is no further transmission towards their family members and the other neighbors living in the community. We can cut off the chains of local transmission. And the second goal is to make sure that these persons already taken inside a makeshift hospital will not suffer from any extra risks and dangers. For the mild cases or the asymptomatic cases, we have to make sure that they will not further develop into more serious stages. For example, for asymptomatic cases to develop into the severe cases. So we are facing a huge task. We have already previously participated in the fight against the COVID-19 in other cities. Some of our medics have worked in the fever department or the emergency department. We have already accumulated abundant experiences about the treatment and the settlement of the patients. And some other experts and also the trained doctors, they have also joined our battle against the COVID-19. On a daily basis, we will do our best to take care of all the patients. And for some of the persons arriving in the makeshift hospitals, maybe when they arrive, they have not received a very long process of diagnosis because immediately they were transferred from the community level to our side, but we will do our best to help them out. And now to you, Mr. Liu. You are also working at a very large scale of the makeshift hospital. Have you discharged any patients? How long can you expect to see the results of nucleic acid test of these makeshift hospital patients to have the negative results? Thank you very much. Currently, this tide of COVID-19 outbreak in Shanghai is mainly caused by the variant of Omicron. It's highly infectious and usually in a very hidden way. And compared to Delta variant, most of the cases with the Omicron virus, they have relatively mild symptoms. In our section, we have noticed that some of the patients previously characterized as the asymptomatic carriers have developed into mild cases, and according to the work arrangement, we have decided to do 2 rounds of nucleic acid tests on these people, and with at least a delay period of 24 hours between the 2 nucleic acid tests. If they show 2 rounds of negative nucleic acid test results, then we can consider to discharge them and take them back to the stage of home-based quarantine. But of course, we also have to stay alert to see whether there's medical emergencies, whether there will be a possibility for mild cases to develop into the severe cases or critical cases even. So today, under the headquarters of direction, we have set up 7 medical teams. At local level, we have set up the MDG groups composed of 57 doctors specialized in the nosocomial infection treatment, for infant treatment, for respiratory sciences, etc. At the same time, we are also joined by the other social workers specialized with the analysis of infant or children behaviors, and also the nurses for the treatment of the infant. For the patients with pre-existing conditions, when they have severe symptoms, and after being infected by Omicron variant, combined with the pre-existing conditions, the patients may develop the severe damage to multiple organs. For example, for the heart, you can find the heartaches. Just now, as is mentioned by Mr. Lu, for this virus of COVID-19, it is attacking the upper respiratory tract. Yes, indeed, for the upper respiratory tract. And the diseases with the respiratory tract can also cause the problems with the other organs and systems. For example, the digestion system or the cardiovascular system. In this case, especially for the younger generation, for the infants and young children, we have to stay in collaboration with the other designated hospitals to treat those children. And once there is an emergency, we have to report this information to the upper authority to wait for a final decision whether we should transfer those patients to the other more specialized hospitals or we can continue to make them stay in this makeshift hospital. We have set up temporary posts of work here. We have the medical support teams and also the daily treatment. We have the nurses to do this job, the nursing teams, and also the other teams of medics to work against nosocomial infection risks. You know that for the medics, they are facing higher risks when they are putting on or taking off the protective gowns. We are training our medics on a regular basis. After the fight in Wuhan, we have accumulated a lot of experience in fighting against the virus. We have also recruited some more experts who are more experienced than the others in fighting against the nosocomial infections. We also have the guarantee teams for the supply of the medical equipment and medicines, as well as the teams of a security guarantee. It's no easy job to coordinate the duties of all those above-mentioned groups. So every day on a daily basis, we have online and offline communication mechanisms to coordinate the work of all these different teams. I'd like to add up some more information on the basis of what you have mentioned. First of all, the National Health Commission has made up the standards and also the guidebook for the operation of the makeshift hospitals. For example, how many beds we could put inside a certain space. And according to the notice of the National Health Commission, among every 10,000 hospital beds, we have to equip them with 2,000 people. Now we have 13,000 hospital beds here, so that's why we have equipped with 3,800 medics. So apparently we have enough medics to work in our site. Until yesterday, we have received 7,039 patients. Just now you have mentioned for those patients transferred outside of our makeshift hospital, are they all asymptomatic cases? Actually not. We have transferred out of our makeshift hospital of a number of 81, including some of the patients suffering from, at the same time, COVID-19 virus and also the pre-existing chronic diseases. For the other 50 patients, they are younger generation, the infants, and also elderly populations that deserve our higher level of attention. So you have asked how many times should we wait until we can see a negative nucleic acid test result of these patients. Some of them enter from the first day of the 5th of April, and some others they have reached our makeshift hospital a little bit later. Before their arrival, some of them have already delivered a positive nucleic acid test results. And since yesterday, we have already discharged some of the patients who have delivered both rounds of negative nucleic acid test. Starting by today, we can expect to discharge more than 2,000 people because they have revealed already negative acid tests for both rounds of the test with a negative result. In general, we can expect to see the discharge waiting period for about 7 to 10 days. So counting by the first day of their arrival, maybe in 7 to 10 days, they can start to have the qualified negative nucleic acid test results for the discharge consideration. Until now, there are more than 100 makeshift hospitals, and we'd like to check out the interior with your side of makeshift hospital.
It is one of the major temporary hospitals in Shanghai, with 13,600 beds. The hospital is now running at its full capacity, with over 12,000 COVID patients being treated. With the city's medical resources under strain, medics from other provinces have come to help. The neighboring provinces of Jiangsu and Zhejiang were the first teams to come support the city. They are now part of a joint team together with medics from Huashan Hospital in Shanghai.
Our group is responsible for taking care of almost 600 COVID cases. Most of them are asymptomatic ones. Our major tasks are understanding their situation and underlying disease history and managing their daily lives.
The national standard for the medic-patient ratio in temporary hospitals is 1 to 5, which means at least 2,000 medics are required for 10,000 patients. Now we have 1,500 medics from Zhejiang, 2,000 from Jiangsu, and 260 from Huashan Hospital in Shanghai, around 3,800 medics in total. The ratio is higher than the national standard.
Dr. Lu Xiang says these medics are here for thorough understanding and careful observation of each patient's physical condition, especially those with chronic diseases.
Most mild and asymptomatic cases still must be checked by respiratory or traditional Chinese medicine doctors. This helps prevent those asymptomatic cases from developing into mild and then from mild to common or severe. To senior citizens with chronic diseases, the risk is still very high. Although we have gained more knowledge on the novel coronavirus than 2 years ago, quarantine is still necessary.
Lingang Temporary Hospital was converted from 2 warehouses in the harbor. Lu says it's not that perfect, but they've tried their best to make every basic necessity accessible. And their goal is to discharge most patients within 1 or 2 weeks. Wu Bin, CGTN, Shanghai.
Well, we know, as you have mentioned before, apart from the clinical doctors, you also have the psychologists. Currently, for the psychological assistance, is it very important? Yes, of course. You can imagine that in a very huge space, 300 people or even up to 1,000 people, they eat together at the same time, they take the nucleic acid test at the same time, in the same space, under the same roof. It's like a military routine. That is totally different from their daily life. And they are also waiting for the results of the nucleic acid test. You can imagine that people are under great pressure. So that's why we have equipped our makeshift hospital with psychological assistance. And we also have the medical interference specialists. More importantly, our medics, they have to put into play their expertise and knowledge to take care of the patients. We also encourage the mutual understanding among the medics and also the patients, and even among the patients themselves. For the interference or the organization at the community level, we have set up this team leader mechanism. For every 20 hospital beds, they can make their democratic selection to vote for a team leader, and there's also mutual aid mechanism among the patients. We also give them some mental care to reassure them for this very short period of quarantine is for the best interest of theirs, for the interest of their family members, relatives, and also their neighbors, even as large as the whole society. We have the psychological teams For those patients really cannot get used to the makeshift hospital, we have to give them more care and consultation. And on the other hand, we have to improve the quality of our services and treatment to make them feel at home. For example, give them better conditions for the dining and also for the daily living. Also enable them to take showers and have some normal daily necessities at hand. We are also working with them inside the same space, under the same roof. We have, as I mentioned before, set up this mutual aid group, and during this time, it's like this semi-militarized management system. Thousands of people, they are respecting the same routine under the same roof. It sounds cold. However, we will try our best to make it sound like a big family. It's like everybody working and living here. They should treat each other as member of the same family. Currently, we have more than 200,000 cases, and for a great part of them, they are people, young people under 18 years old, especially for that section in the new International Export Center makeshift hospital. We first of all show you a video clip.
As a family, within a span of 24 hours, this major quarantine site in Shanghai took in 177 COVID patients. Half of them are children, the other half are their parents. This comes as the city backtracked on a controversial policy. In its latest outbreak, COVID-positive children were at first treated away from their parents. Zhou is one of many pushing things forward.
This is from many people's efforts, not just mine. We made a proposal on children's treatment on April 3rd. One of the suggestions was to allow parents to be with their children, regardless of whether they've tested positive or not. On April 4th, we saw the news that only parents who tested positive could be with their children in centralized quarantine. We realized it wasn't enough, so we worked on a more detailed proposal. We were so glad to see the news this morning. It's officially settled.
Health officials addressed the matter at a press conference on Wednesday. They said there's now a special zone for infected children at quarantine sites. Parents can accompany them after submitting an application and signing an acknowledgement form of the potential health risks.
Children are the most vulnerable group, and hearing of their infections affects us. We must not only obey laws and rules, but also take into account special circumstances. We continue to improve and optimize our services and guarantee measures for children who have been infected.
During this difficult time, many have to stay at home and wait for things to get better. For those infected, the situation appears grim. But now they say one good thing is some people can at least be with their loved ones. Wang Siwen, CGTN, Shanghai.
Well, back to you, Mr. Liu. Could you please tell us something about this parent-child section in your makeshift hospital? How many children do you have now, and how many of them are accompanied by their parents? And currently, is it a better news for the children treated now in your hospital once they are accompanied by their parents? Now I'm working in the W2 section, which has attracted a lot of attention from the society because this is a parent-child section. We have a total capacity of more than 1,300 hospital beds, but not all of the hospital beds are occupied. We still have some flexibility in order to facilitate the parents to accompany their children. We are expecting to better design this number of the occupancy of the hospital beds. For some of the parents, they have more than one child. So at the same time, there are some of the parents taking care of multiple beds. And Mr. Lu has talked about the mental care to the parents. We have to show more love and care to the patients, especially for the younger generation, for the young kids. If we can take care of the kids, then their parents will be much more assured. We are doing a more flexible treatment with the children section and with this parent-child section. And children, they are more prone to the infections with the upper respiratory tract. We are working with multiple departments of different hospitals to better meet with the needs of the treatment of these children. We also have the psychological care and experts to assist those children. If we can, first of all, calm down those children in this makeshift hospital, then we can make sure that whole work with the rest of the patients in the makeshift hospital, including the parents of those children, can be more smooth. And you know that children, they have to continue with their lessons. They are taking online lessons. So we have regrouped all those children inside our hospital into different age groups. We have infants of less than 2 years old. Then it's an absolute must for us to keep their parents around them. And within the makeshift hospitals, we have also recruited the volunteers, and the volunteers can organize some small scale of recreational activities for the infants. And we also have the kids of the age to go to elementary school. We can set up the quiet environment, a quiet corner for them to take online lessons. For children above 12 years old or even above 15 years old, we have another policy. We have more flexible mechanism of arrangement for them. If there is the case of family-based cluster outbreak, if the children now, they are not accompanied by the parents, we can first of all make the recommendations to the children to take their iPad or to take some other equipment with them. And later on, we will also designate another worker to accompany these children. And for our part, the Lingang section, we are mainly dealing with the adult patients, but in our medical team, we also have the specialists for the treatment of children. For example, we have the dean of the Hospital of Children of Wuxi City. We have 449 children patients under the age of 18 years old. For those under 14 years old, it is a must for them to be accompanied by their parents. They should not be left alone. For the other age groups of children above 14 years old, they can choose to stay with their parents or without. And we even have the students that are about to take the university entrance exam earlier this summer. So they also have the designated area to better continue with their studies. Due to the time limit of today, last question for today. Over the past month, Shanghai is facing a huge challenge. For example, we have put on halt to the public transportation system. A lot of people, they have been blocked at their home. As a super large city, for Shanghai, what is the future policy for the containment of COVID-19? In our country, the general policy and strategy has been made very clear by the upper authority. We would like to realize the dynamic COVID zeroing at community level, and we would like to make sure that people can carry out their daily life on a normal basis, and constructions as well as the productions can continue. For different provinces, they have different situations and challenges. For some provinces, they have a greater number of cases, and for some others, fewer cases. So they have to consider their own special cases and also the situation to build up their own strategies for the COVID-19 containment. And there will also be a different number of makeshift hospitals from different places. We have to show our understandings. at the level of the government work and organizational arrangements, we have to understand the different application of policies, and at the street level, street committee and community levels, we also have different policies. For example, when one community is designated, is defined as the high-risk area, immediately there will be the lockdown area. And if we would like to sustain this policy and make sure it works, then the community workers, they have to play a very important role because they have to take care of their families without any confirmed cases, as well as those families with already confirmed cases. And you can also imagine that once there's the confirmed cases, when they are treated and discharged from the hospitals, communities, once again, they have this huge task of settling these discharged patients. For the makeshift hospitals, as well as the designated hospitals, we are treating the confirmed cases, asymptomatic carriers, as well as the close contacts. Today, when talking about close contacts of the confirmed cases and even the close contacts of the close contacts, we also have to do a wonderful job at community level. For the individuals, communities, and the city and the province at large, even at the central level, to consider the policies, we have to make sure that people, they are working at coordinated manner, and they have to show their firm determination. And we also expect to see very tight and close collaboration among the medics and also the patients themselves. If we would like to launch this battle against the COVID-19, then we have to be very tough in our measures against the COVID-19. Otherwise, we cannot secure the safety of the younger generation and the elderly population because they are at higher risk. For the majority of the ordinary people, they have no worry against this variant, but we have to show more understanding and love towards those higher risk populations like the elderly population and younger children. I believe that if we can work together in a united way, then for our country, we can set up a very good example of the prevention and control of COVID-19. And for Mr. Liu, you've been working in the city of Wuhan. What's your suggestion to the COVID-19 containment in Shanghai, a super large city? How can we best improve the battle policies against COVID-19? As is mentioned by Mr. Lu, different cities should apply different measures and policies. They need a tailored version of treatment. For Shanghai and the other highly populated cities, makeshift hospitals can be an advantage. First of all, with makeshift hospitals, we can manage those patients in a united way and well-organized way. We can also do the characterization of the patients. We can also lower the pressure for the communities when there is the outbreak. With the makeshift hospitals, we can realize the concentrated distribution of materials and also the equipment as well as the daily necessities. So makeshift hospitals can be really an edge. Thank you very much for joining us.
Of course, it has been a very challenging time for Shanghai over the past month, and the city is now doing everything it can to ease the COVID development in the city. And with thousands of medical workers dispatched from other cities across China, and also the strict travel restrictions in Shanghai, hopefully the turning point of this round of COVID outbreak could appear soon. And once again, thank you so much for joining us. And in the coming weeks, we will continue our chat room on Shanghai's COVID outbreak by focusing on other topics. Stay tuned.